Good morning. Today's adventure is brought to you by the great state of Tennessee. Yes, that's right. We have traveled down south to continue our hiking adventures in this very special part of the country. And what makes this a special part of the country? Well, not only is this southern Appalachia, which if you watch my other videos, you can pick up on the context clues that I live in northern Appalachia, so we get to continue to explore this vast mountain wilderness. But another thing that makes this a special part of the country is that we are once again exploring another national park. Yes, my journey of visiting as many national parks as I can is continuing as another notch in my belt gets taken off, but we are in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We are doing one of the more popular hikes today called Alum Cave Bluffs to Mount LeConte. We're going to hit up a whole bunch of interesting points on this hike today. It's one of the more popular hikes, like I said, so everyone suggested we get here as early as we possibly can, which I did. And as you can see, it's still pretty early. So let me check back in with you guys once I get a little bit more natural light, so I don't have to keep flashing this flashlight in my face and blinding myself. All right. Okay, we're about a mile in on the trail, and we got to somewhat of an open section, so hopefully I get some light on here so you guys can see me. We are hiking Mount LeConte today, which is not the highest point in the Smoky Mountains, but that's actually Klinsman's Dome. But it starts at a lower elevation, and so the elevation gain is actually the highest in the whole park. Just like my hike up Mount Adams compared to Mount Washington up in the White Mountains there. Same thing. So although it's not the tallest, we're still going to get our bang for the buck on this hike today and hopefully see some pretty cool features out here as well. I'm sure by the time we get to them, someone will turn the lights on, so we will be able to see it a lot better. But for the first mile, I've been walking along this river here, so that's creating quite the nice soundscape for the hike. This river is actually called the River Styx. They call it Branch Styx, but it's spelled just like the river in the underworld, S-T-Y-X. But lady, you'd be fooling yourself if you're going to come sail away on this renegade river. Bad joke. I'm sorry. I had to make it though. All right, let's keep on going, and hopefully when we get to something interesting, we will get some illumination. Okay, we are at our first cool feature. Yeah, no, it's not a bridge. It's a place called Arch Rock. You see this little cave. This forms into this rock here. The trail goes through. It's just years and years of wind and rain. They ate away at this and formed this cave in here. Pretty cool. A lot of steps on this trail. Well, man-made steps. Reminds me of the Adirondacks, where everything is made for you. Real nice and easy. There it is. Arch Rock. More steps. Been a lot of bridges so far crisscrossing this river. Good old Branch Styx. But it's been a good hike so far. Real easy, real easy. There's really no questioning on where you got to go. There's been no crossroads of other trails or anything so far, so it makes it easy. So yeah. Like I said before, we are in the Smoky Mountains. Smoky Mountains gets its name from such high elevation. You got the valleys in between the peaks, which gets really cool during the nighttime. And when the sun comes out, all that mist goes up, creates a crazy updraft of mist called Smoky Mountains there. But it really wasn't all that cold this morning. It's a little bit above 60, so I'm guessing once we get to our peak, we should have pretty good views of the surrounding areas, which will be nice. It's not necessarily why we do these things, but it's always a little cherry on top. We can get to see the geology of the area. And I've never been to the Smoky Mountains before, so all these views are brand new for me. So hopefully we do get to see them. Nice little birch forest going on right here, real pretty. Seeing the light trunks stick up in the middle there. So we are in southern Appalachia, which is a pretty interesting part of the country. They have their own very peculiar way of living, and we only call it peculiar because it's unlike other parts of the country. You know, when you think of stuff like food, they got stuff like invented stuff like collard greens and cornbread, and basically one of their main staples is anything they can hunt and kill. But even more interestingly is their style of music that they incorporated down here, which is primarily bluegrass. And those of you who listen to bluegrass know that it originates from Irish folk music. That's interesting. How would Irish folk music get to a place like southern Appalachia? Well, the Appalachian Mountains actually create this incredible big loop starting down in Georgia, going up the spine of the United States, up into Canada, through Greenland, then down through the British Isles there, ending in Ireland. Oh, sorry, yes. So the landscape, when the Irish immigrants came over, they landed in this area and they said, wow, this actually reminds us exactly like home, as it should, because it's practically the same mountain range. So they settled here, and a lot of their old customs became part of the New World customs. So Irish folk music evolved into bluegrass music. That's a pretty interesting evolution of the style of music, I find. Still not that big of a fan of bluegrass, but hey, a lot of people like it, and good on them. Another interesting thing that hits a little bit closer to home to me is German immigrants also landed in this area, and they realized quite quickly that they're going to need to hunt in order to survive out here. So they brought over their trusty dogs from Germany. They hunted, these dogs are called plot hounds, and this is what a plot hound looks like. And the Germans raised these dogs in Germany to hunt wild boar. Then when they came over here, there wasn't all that much wild boar going on, but there's a lot of bear. So they bred these plot hounds in order to start tracking down bear and hunting them, which helped settle the area. So once again, man's best friend comes through in time of need and helps settle the area. Good on you guys. I'm a good boy, huh? I would love to have my plot hound with me this morning, but unfortunately, Great Smoky Mountains only has like 2 trails you're allowed to have dogs on. Yeah, so he had to stay at home at the cabin. So we are all alone. Getting some decent views going now that the lights have been turned on. Maybe we get a better section up here up ahead. Haven't seen too many fauna yet. We had a bear outside our cabin yesterday. So that was real interesting. We saw a I don't know, 4, 6, 8 point buck on our hike yesterday to Grotto Falls. Saw a skunk out on the roads, but that's not really that brag-worthy. But nothing on the trail so far, but I don't know, who knows. You saw my first clip, my intro. It was pretty dark, so who knows, maybe I walked by a whole family of Bigfoot without even knowing it. Won't know now, but look at that valley in there. We're getting close to the backcountry now. So Mount LeConte is actually, from base to peak, it's the highest mountain you can hike east of the Rockies, believe it or not. So Mount LeConte is definitely reputable in its own way. Chock full of stairs, as I've been noting. But to put that in perspective, from base to peak on the hike, you get an elevation gain of 5,300 feet for LeConte. For a mountain called Mount St. Helens, you guys know that one. That's that volcano in Washington State that blew up in, what was that, late 80s, early 90s? That's only 5,000 feet elevation gain from base to peak. So good old LeConte here has more elevation gain than something as renowned as Mount St. Helens. Also, you know how I like to complain about naming conventions of certain geological figures out there. Mount LeConte is named after a gentleman named John LeConte. And how was his name attributed to this mountain? Well, he had a buddy who had a big barometer that John LeConte helped him move. And the guy was so thankful that he named the mountain after him. That's one of the dumbest reasons I ever heard of calling a mountain after someone, just because he helped him move. As a guy who drives a truck, I've helped many people move. Not once have I had a mountain named after me. There was a name that the Cherokee called this mountain, Wasigiligi, something along those lines. I never found out what it actually stands for, but that's what they called it. I don't know if that's any better than LeConte, but at least it's more organic, I guess. All right, we are making our way to our, well, one of the main features on this hike. I said before, this is a very popular hike, one of the most popular on the in the whole national park here. But not what I'm doing, not to the peak of LeConte. It's popular for this turnaround point right here, which is the Alum cave. Crazy, huh? So apparently it's called the Alum cave because the Cherokee thought that the white settlers were mining alum out here, which is an aluminum salt. They weren't all the way true. There was mining going on, but they're actually mining saltpeter to make gunpowder, probably to kill said Cherokee. So it's named by a virtue of misidentification, but still better than saltpeter cave, I guess. It's pretty cool though. But this is usually where people turn around and head on back to the other way, back to the trail there. But we're not going to do that. We're going to continue forward. It actually smells like a beach up here. It smells like a lot of salt in the air, believe it or not. Pretty cool. So real quick, saw this yesterday too, but coming across these things on the trail every so often, looks like there's a cutout right there. I imagine there's a laser in there, and it's counting everyone who passes on by there. Yesterday's hike to Grotto Falls was another pretty popular hike, so I'm sure this stuff's only on like the more populated trails. But I've never seen that before. I thought that was interesting. Technology miles out into the trails. So usually when I get this high up in the mountains, I start smelling a lot of evergreen scents. Not the case here. It smells a little skunky up here actually. Slight hint of marijuana, believe it or not. So who knows, maybe I'm about to stumble upon some mountain folk illegal marijuana crop. I doubt it. That stuff is pretty legal around here nowadays. But speaking of drugs in the Smokies, there's actually a pretty big gray market for ginseng. Believe it or not, that stuff is worth hundreds of dollars per pound, and this is one of the best places in the world to grow it. So you need a license to grow it out here, and I think there's some type of lottery system, so only so many people can grow it. But a lot of people come hunting for the ginseng out in the woods here to harvest it and get all that profits for themselves. So yeah, there's a bit of a drug trade history out here in the Smokies. Haven't been given that many opportunities for a lookout yet, but we got one right here. Nice sheer cliff face. Looking out to whole mess loads of peaks. There's the Smoky Mountains, folks. Just mind-boggling to think that there's nothing but woods out there. How creepy would it be if you hiked in those backcountry areas and in the middle of nowhere you just stumble upon a cabin, especially one that looks like it's been living in recently. Who knows? There's always, whenever you get into these big expanses of woods, there's always tales of people living out there and subsistently living off the land. I'm sure it could be done. It'd be not an easy life. But yeah, stumbling upon someone like that while you're 4 miles deep in the woods, that would be something. Definitely a noteworthy experience. All right, I am not at the top, but I'm almost at the top. Apparently the top of this mountain doesn't have a very good lookout, so this is the best lookout. This is called Cliff Top, and here we go, folks. Here's the Smoky Mountains. There's a town out that way. I don't know if that's Gatlinburg or Pigeon Forge. I heard you could see Pigeon Forge from up here, so maybe that's it. But we don't have much of the smoke that gets the Smokies its name today, so that's a good thing. You see a little bit out from the distance there. So quite the view out here, and again, just a barren wilderness. Nothing out there but trees and animals. Beautiful stuff. All right, let's get to the peak. Looks like we got some damage in this area. There's another real popular hike here called the chimney top hikes. It's 2 peaks that look like chimneys, but apparently there was a real big wildfire back in the day that kind of destroyed it. The temperatures on top of that peak got into the thousands of degrees apparently, but now you can't hike up there anymore. But that looks like more fire damage right there. So wildfires do happen out here. Before I got to the cliff top peak there, that lookout, I was down at the LeConte Lodge. I'll hit that up on the way back and talk about that down there. But I ran into this gentleman. His name was Dewey. I think that's the first time I ever met a Dewey. But he has hiked this mountain 450 times. His goal is to make it to 500. And by the way that he's talking, he's going to make it just in a few more weeks. He's up here all the time. But yeah, could you imagine hiking a mountain 500 times? Apparently he says there's a whole community of people who do that kind of stuff, which, hey, that's fantastic. I don't know if I could do something like that. I think that would get boring. But saying that, you know, hiking, I've done Black Rock State Park by my home well over 1,000 times at this point throughout the year. So yeah, you know, that's a quick little jaunt in the woods. So it's not that much like an 11-mile hike like this one is. But still, you know, everyone has their thing. You could be doing a lot stupider things with your life than hiking a mountain 500 times. But I thought that was super interesting. We are on our way to, like I said, the absolute peak of LeConte, which I was told doesn't even have a lookout. It's just a stone cairn, I think it's cairn, that's there. So once we're there, I will check in then. And we got one more point to look at after that, and then descent. Well, my friend Mr. Dewey wasn't lying. There's absolutely no lookout on the top of Mount LeConte. But here's the peak. There's the cairn at the top of the peak. Let's go ahead and add to the chaos. There we go. Leave no trace. All right, we are continuing on to one more point. Called Myrtle Point, which does have a decent lookout. It's only about another 0.4 of a mile away, so everyone I asked said, yeah, it's an okay lookout, but while you're up here, you might as well just go ahead and do it. So let's just go ahead and do it. I will check in when we're at Myrtle Point. So far, I'm real happy that I decided to do Myrtle Point. It's one of the more interesting parts of the hike so far. So you can see this is how thin the trail is right now. See there, lookout, drop off, small trail, another drop off, and then so we're basically walking a ridge line to this Myrtle Point. So hopefully once we get there, we'll get some good. I don't know if it's going to be 360 degrees, but maybe a good panorama view of things. I believe I'm almost there. All right, ladies and gents, Myrtle Point. Not quite as clear of a view as I was hoping, but we'll make things do. So here we go. Something else, huh? Right smack dab in the middle of the Smokies. So if you guys plan on hiking this mountain, I definitely suggest coming out to Myrtle Point. The only bad part of the hike, and it's really not all that bad, is there's a lot of black flies. They're not bothering me. They're not landing on me or biting me or anything. It's just audibly I hear them buzzing around, and you don't normally hear that many flies buzzing around unless you're walking around a whole bunch of feces. So it's making me think that I'm like in a barn or something, just with the buzzing. But still, I'm smelling a lot more evergreen now than I was before, so it's better than smelling feces from any animals. But here's Myrtle Point. Here's my turnaround. Really something. There's the smoke of the Smokies. Awesome. So one more thing that's neat that LeConte has, LeConte, I keep wanting to call it LeConte, this is how it's spelled, has to offer is the LeConte Lodge, which I read online is the highest elevated lodging east of the Rockies. And here that is. There's a dining hall and gift shop and restroom and all that stuff here. You can't get up here motorized, so all the lodging you have to hike your way up here. And apparently the lodges get full very fast, so you have to reserve this months in advance. How quaint. I think I read that some of these are over 100 years old. It's super cool. They're building some more apparently. So LeConte Lodge was absolutely full, no vacancy, so there's a lot of people there. I didn't really hang out there too long. But like I said, there's a dining hall there, there's restrooms, there's a gift shop, and like I said before, there's no motorized way of getting up here, so all the gear has to be packed in, which, you know, the distance is the distance, right? It took about 5.5, 6 miles to get to the lodge, so imagine doing that with packs on. I did read that they sometimes bring packs of llamas up here, pack animals, to haul all the gear. Not for nothing, that would make my trip if I could see a pack of llamas right now. We saw a bear yesterday and a buck, a skunk, but llamas would push it over the edge. I did see 4 dead mice on a log back the trail some, lined up perfectly. I think it was just some bobcat having some fun, some morbid fun. That's about it so far. All right, so we are done. We're back in the parking lot. Hey, look, I didn't take too many videos on my way down because, frankly, I took the videos on the way up, so it was the same trail on the way back down. But I did run back into my buddy Dewey, and I hiked down with him. So a lot of these hikes I'm running solo, but not this time. The pretty much 3/4 of the entire descent, I was hanging out with Dewey and hearing his stories of all his worldly hikes and whatnot. So that was interesting. Definitely made the time go by fast. But hey, that was Mount LeConte. That was a good time right there. Definitely suggest doing it if you're out in the Smokies. It's definitely different from the other hikes I do up in the Northeast. I don't feel like I'm beat up right now. It ended up being like 12.5 miles. I still feel pretty good. It's not like after hiking in New Hampshire, I feel like I just went to war with a mountain, and I need a couple of days to recoup. So yeah, the trails here are nice. Mount LeConte's great, and definitely worthwhile going out to Myrtle Point. Definitely a neat look out there. Anyone who's interested into the, I think it was 12.4 miles with 3,200 feet elevation gain, and took us just over 5 hours. Would have taken us much less, but me and Dewey, excuse me, we got caught up talking the entire way. So that's it. That's our hike for the Smoky Mountains. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Be awesome to each other and do not litter.